What's good, everybody on YouTube? This is your boy Akil McLeod back with another video, and today I'm going to give you guys the 4 reasons why as of right now I'm strongly considering to stop selling clothing online. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, my name is Akil McLeod and I'm a full-time reseller, and I sell mainly men's clothing on eBay and on Poshmark. And I know for a lot of people right now, everybody's looking for new side hustles, especially since we are in 2020, brand new year. A lot of people are looking to get into different businesses, and I know the reselling business is very popular right now, very trendy, but I definitely want to give you guys just some heads up in terms of what it's really like being a full-time reseller. And even if you're looking into doing this on a part-time basis, these are definitely some of the same type of obstacles you guys are going to face, mainly depending on your location. So if you guys are interested in these kind of videos, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, y'all, so to start things off, for the past 2 years I've been selling men's clothing online. This is going into my 3rd year, and for the most part it's been really nice, really smooth. I was able to find some really good brands for some really decent prices, especially when I was living in Santa Barbara, California. And those thrift stores there, they were really affordable. There were only about 2 or 3 different ones that I would frequent on a regular basis. And the thing with those is that since there were only 2 to 3 different thrift stores in the area, everybody donated all of their stuff to those thrift stores. So for me, when I was looking for men's clothing, it was really easy for me to pop into one of those thrift stores basically every single day. I hardly ever went a day without thrifting, and I would usually always find at least 2 or 3 different things that I can sell to gain some decent profit. Sometimes it will sell for as low as 30 bucks, sometimes as high as 50 and 60, where I can make some more profit. But for the most part, last year I really built a strong business model surrounded around pieces that would basically sell for about that $35 to $50 range, and I would just do that in volume. So I would find a bunch of men's clothing, especially shirts and jeans. Oftentimes I would find used shoes as well, and that was basically my bread and butter pieces that I would usually flip. But since I've moved to Arizona, one thing that really helped me kind of open my eyes to the whole reselling clothing business is the fact that the thrift stores out here are a lot more expensive. And for the most part, I'm very familiar now at the fact that Goodwill and Savers, now that these stores they're really onto clothing. They're on eBay, they're on YouTube, they're doing comps and all of these things. So they're pricing clothing very, very high. So for me, what I've realized is that I'm not able to pick up those same pieces that I was getting for $2 and $3 and selling them for 30. Nowadays, I'm coming across those same items, but instead of spending $2, now I might have to spend $10 or even $15 for those same pieces. For regular brands that we all come across, like Ralph Lauren and Nike and stuff like that. So for me, when it comes to clothing, the past couple of days I visited a couple of thrift stores outside of just Goodwill and Savers, and not to say that the prices are terrible, but I'm coming across a lot of the similar situations, almost to the point now where I'm hardly even checking for men's clothing anymore, and I'm really just gravitating towards shoes, because as I told you guys in the past, one of my live shows, one of my goals for 2020 is to really just focus on shoes. Predominantly brand new shoes, brand new in the box, brand new without box, but just trying to get more shoes in my inventory. So I've just been gravitating towards more shoes every time I hit the thrift, and I really wasn't even checking for men's clothing. So the number one reason for me why I'm gonna stop selling clothing very slowly but surely is just the fact that the prices are just too high for me to make a decent profit. Now, will I completely stop selling men's clothing? I highly doubt it, because at the end of the day, thrifting was always a hobby for me, so I'm always going to still want to, see what's out there and maybe buy some stuff for myself, or if I can find some rare or unique brands that can bring in some good money, of course I'll always pick those up. But in terms of me picking up like Nike golf polos and the stuff that I would usually sell all year long, it's basically over for that for me, at least for right now. That's how I'm feeling, and I really just want to spend more time and energy into selling more shoes. So if you guys agree, if your thrift stores in your area are also super expensive, drop a comment. Let me know what your thrift store prices are like, because I know a lot of people would comment on my older videos when I did trip to the thrifts fairly often, and would say your thrift stores are amazing, you guys have some really good stuff, you always find great pieces. But nowadays, not to say I don't find good things anymore, it's becoming more rare for me to leave the house and find like 10 to 15 pieces that can sell for some really good money without having to spend an arm and a leg. So drop a comment if you guys agree. Next up, when it comes to selling clothing online, the other thing that really kind of got in the way for me is just the fact that it takes too much time to list a lot of these pieces. Now, me and my wife, we work together, so we've developed somewhat of a really good system in terms of photographing listings and just putting them up on eBay and on Poshmark really quickly. But for the most part, when you're listing men's clothing, sometimes if it's, say for instance, if it's a blazer, or maybe if it's a jacket or something like that, sometimes those things take a lot of time to get those measurements properly. Sometimes you might have to do a bunch of different angles to photograph the pieces correctly. Some people use mannequins, some don't. I usually don't. I usually just prefer doing flat lays. But for the most part, just in terms of actually getting the item home, and sometimes you might have to also steam it as well. It just takes a lot of time to actually get some of these listings up and ready and just out the door. So for me, it's all about trying to be more efficient with my time, especially since I'm working with my wife now. We don't want to spend all day working. We want to just enjoy life. So for the most part, we're trying to get into a business that we can still enjoy, make some good money, and still just live a real fruitful life. And for me, as of right now, when it comes down to the clothing aspect of it, I'm kind of falling out of love with just selling clothing. So I'm definitely going to start focusing more on shoes, and I might even start focusing more on hard goods as well, like electronics and car parts and stuff like that. Now, something else that really dawned on me when I made the move was the fact that when it comes to storing your clothing items, especially if you have a larger eBay store or Poshmark Closet, you can have several totes and several bins or just boxes full of inventory. And to garner frequent sales, if you don't have brands that people are frequently searching for, you need to have a ton of inventory to make a decent amount of sales every day. And for me, just traveling from California to Arizona, half of our truck, our moving truck, we had the largest truck that you can get. I believe it was the 26-foot truck, and only about maybe 5 to 6 feet of the space was actually used for our stuff, such as the bed and the furniture and things like that, and the rest of the space in that truck was just the inventory. So for somebody that wants to do this part-time or even full-time, you definitely need to consider the storage, you need to consider the space. And for me right now, we do have a ton of space in this apartment. I must say this is a really good size, so I'm able to store all the things that I've been getting. Especially if you guys follow the channel, you guys know I picked up about 100 pair of Polo Ralph Lauren pants and about 100 pair of shorts for like $1.50 a piece, and the polo pants was like $3 a piece. So I'm basically gonna be drowning in pants and shorts for the next year. So like I said, by no means am I gonna stop selling clothing, because I have so many at this point that I kind of have to at least get rid of what I have. But at the same time, with that being said, you always just have to consider the amount of inventory that you have. And right now, when it comes to clothing and just storage, you know, if you don't have the adequate amount of space, it can really become bothersome if you don't have a decent amount of space to hold all your inventory. And if you're going to be selling clothing, you need to hold it. I always tell people at least 100 to 150 items to really garner some frequent sales on a regular basis. So definitely keep that in mind if you guys are brand new to reselling, or if you're just considering to start reselling specifically clothing in 2020. And last but not least, this is definitely not something that I find as a problem, but for some people it can definitely be kind of annoying. But when it comes to keeping up with brands and trends, you have to be on top of it if you want to be selling clothing. When it comes to clothing, some brands are hot one month and then they're completely dead the next month. So for the most part, you constantly have to keep up with different trends, different brands, what's hot, what's not. And for me, I really do enjoy fashion. I'm always I try to keep up to date with what people are actually wearing and what's hot in the streets. And for me right now, not to say I'm not keeping up with it, but where I am right now, I'm not finding a lot of those brands that are really dope and that are really fashionable, especially in this particular area. So especially if you're in an area where the fashion isn't that great and the people around you aren't really wearing like high fashion pieces, the odds of you being a successful fashion reseller is going to be kind of slim, because you're going to be stuck to selling a lot of mall brands and the brands that are more highly saturated online. Because sometimes you might go to a thrift store and it might be a piece from, say, Banana Republic, and they price that for $5, and you could possibly sell that for maybe 20 or 25 bucks, which is decent profit. But at the same time, once you go online and you see the amount of people selling the same brands and the same exact item that you're selling, sometimes they might be selling that item for maybe 10 or $15. So you're barely gonna make any profit. So it's just super important to stay up with the brands, stay up with the different trends, because sometimes you might come across a brand that's not necessarily hot, but the style and the trend, it's still trendy. So you're still able to, you know, make some decent money on it and just flip it on a website like Poshmark, for instance. Those are the platforms where you can sell more trendy items and not necessarily focus on the brand. But that's where I am with this right now. I'm definitely in a period of transition where mentally I'm starting to switch over from solely just men's clothing to really more hard goods and shoes. And for the most part, unless I come across some really good deals like I've done in the past with Dillard's, where I was able to get stuff for 90% off, chances are I'm going to stop selling men's clothing probably sometime soon. Probably by the end of the year, my closet will probably be 90% shoes and maybe 10% clothing. In a perfect world, and in the way how I'm envisioning the business to play out, that's how I'm seeing it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you guys agree or disagree, drop that in the comment section. I love to hear you guys out, because you guys always give me some good tips and just some different perspectives when it comes to selling clothing. So I love to hear from you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
For the winner, cause you felt like you was losing, only for the winner. Move just to keep from cooling, like only for the winner, only for the winner, only for the winner. Boy, my heart is cold, and I'm too cool to sweat it. I should've never offered it. I'm tight and now I'm off this shit. You should wanna be a real one.